You know that moment when you take off your shirt at the beach or even the pool or even just in front of your bathroom mirror and you're expecting to see the result of 3 years of consistent work, but what you actually see is okay. It's not bad. It's not impressive. It's okay. Like, you look like a guy who sometimes goes to the gym, but you don't look like a guy who actually goes to the gym consistently. If you've ever had this exact moment, this video is for you because I'm going to tell you why it happened, and it has nothing to do with your genetics or even effort over time. Here's what nobody is really talking about. There's 2 types of guys in the gym. Type 1 has been lifting for about 2 to 3 years in the gym, maybe even 4 or 5. You know, they're consistent, strong, decent size, but when they take their shirt off, they just look kind of average. Like they don't have anything really going for them. Type 2. Type 2's been lifting for about a year, maybe 2, but he looks better than the first guy. And he's not necessarily stronger or even bigger, but he's just better looking. And if you're being honest, you know I'm right. You know these people exist. Effort isn't even the variable. Time isn't the variable. There's something else going on entirely. So here's the reframe. Most guys think lifting is about either getting bigger or about getting leaner, which is entirely wrong. Lifting for aesthetics and actually looking good is about building shape. A Greek god statue isn't impressive because it's massive. It's impressive because of the proportions. The width at the shoulders, the taper at the waist, and the way everything, flows together. That's what the eye responds to. Not the size, not even the leanness by itself, but the actual shape. Okay, real quick, little no fap warning if you guys are on your semen retention journeys, but what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you 3 different women, okay? And I want you to pay attention to which one your eyes naturally are drawn to first when I show you this at a glance, okay? If you're being honest, most of you guys probably looked at the girl on the far right here. Now, not because the others are necessarily ugly or, they're mid. You could argue that, but it's mainly due to proportions, right? This is what the human eye responds to. Wide at the top here, slimmer at the waist, right? And wider at the hips. It's a shape, okay? So now you're probably wondering, Cole, why are you bringing this up in comparison to a V-taper? The short answer is because the V-taper is the male equivalent of an hourglass body. Okay, it catches the female gaze instantly. And here's what I want you to take away from this. You're not under training, most likely. You're just targeting the wrong muscles or specific areas of those muscles. You've been putting in the work, but you just haven't been putting it in the right places or in the right amounts. And it's not your fault because a lot of people won't really go into the specifics about this. So let's get into it. The 3 reasons you still look average are because number 1, you're training the wrong muscles in the wrong proportions. Most guys will overtrain their chest and arms and undertrain their lats, shoulders, and obliques. And I can get why. The chest and the arms are what you see in the mirror. So when you're posing and you're flexing, you see this mainly, and that's what you're hitting harder than the rest of these other muscle groups. But here's the problem with that. Your chest and your arms don't add the mass that create the V-taper shape. But the muscles that actually make you look good are the lats. That's your width. This is what makes your waist look smaller by comparison. And you can see on this guy here, right? This is what builds the V. It's this muscle right here, right? This is your lats, right? This whole section. This is really what will give you that shape. Okay, and then your shoulders, specifically your side delts. Okay, this is what gives you the wider frame from the front and the back, because this is what gives you that width, right? Now, this is probably going to be the more controversial one, but there's a little bit of nuance. So your obliques and your core, this is what's actually going to pull in your waistline. If, keep in mind, this is a big if, you're thinking about it like you're toning it. Because here's the thing, you can actually end up overtraining, and then if you're adding too much mass here, then you're just gonna have a blockier waist. Like imagine if you just added more width on this. It would not look that aesthetic in comparison to the current physique, right? If you're hitting chest twice a week and lats once a week, you're building the wrong physique. And I can go deeper into the actual training hierarchy in the next video, but just just know most guys have their fucking priorities backwards. Okay, reason number 2, you're chasing size instead of shape. And these are not the same thing. You can be 20 pounds heavier than another guy and look worse. I've seen it personally 1,000 times in my gym. Guys will walk around at like 200 pounds, you know, decent muscle, but he just looks like a bigger dude. You know, he's like a power lifter type, right? He's got no real shape, no taper, just mass, kind of like Eddie Hall here, like the Blob from X-Men, right? He's just a big dude. And then there's guys who are walking around, let's say at 175, and you know, he looks like he was sculpted. Every muscle is like perfect and placed exactly where it should be, and the proportions are exactly where they should be to create that aesthetic. You want to think of it like you're a sculptor, and each muscle group has to be at a certain size in comparison to other muscles. So it's about understanding what muscles create what visual effects. It's about understanding what muscles create that visual effect and building them in the right ratios. Most guys will train like bodybuilders, trying to add mass everywhere equally, but unless you're planning to step on stage at 240 pounds, you know, that's not the move. You need to train like an architect. Strategic mass in specific places. Okay, and you can kind of see in this example here, right? He has more mass, but aesthetically, Spider-Man here, you know, Miguel, he looks better objectively because he's slimmer, right? At the waist, and he has the right proportions versus this big meathead over here, right? He has more of a blocky waist, and this is what I was talking about earlier. When you're overtraining your obliques, it kind of makes you look blockier versus something like this where you're more aesthetic. Okay, reason number 3. You're not lean enough to see anything. And this one hurts because, you know, you might have a great physique under there and you just don't even know it yet. You could have perfect proportions, you know, wide lats, boulder shoulders, a tight core, but none of that matters if you're not lean enough to see anything. And this one is really like the most important thing, I think, because you might actually have a great body or physique, pause, you know, under there, but you just don't even know it yet. So you really have to consider the fact that, you know, your body fat percentage is really like what's going to determine how you look day to day, basically. Most guys sort of live in this zone about 15 to I would say 18% body fat for years. And you know, at that range, you look okay. You look like you kind of lift, but you don't look aesthetic. The visible threshold where your proportions are actually going to start showing up is a lot lower than most guys think. It's around, I would say, 8 to 10% body fat for most people. It could even be 10 to 12%. And I'm not saying you need to live there year round necessarily, but if you've been lifting for years and you've never even gone lean to actually show your work, you don't even know what you're working with yet. You might have a great physique. You might need to just adjust your training, but you wouldn't even know until you get lean enough to see it. And if you want, I'll do a full video on the body fat sweet spots and how to get there without losing a lot of your muscle. Okay, if you got something out of this video, I would greatly appreciate, you know, just commenting and saying what you liked, you know, subscribing, all that. And the next video I'm going to do is probably a training hierarchy and breaking down the primary and secondary muscle groups and exactly how to prioritize them.